Hello students, today we're going to talk about multiplying polynomials. Please don't forget to take notes as you go and complete the survey that follows this video. So there are some things that you need to remember when you're doing this. The first thing is, we've already done this before. This is going to be very similar to the previous lesson. The only thing that's going to be different now is that we're going to be increasing in size. Make sure as you're doing this, you're distributing everything. So everything that's in the first parentheses, make sure you distribute to everything in the second one. And the last part of this is to combine all the like terms after you're multiplying. So you should have nothing that looks alike. Everything should have combined as low as they can. Today we're going to also be talking about another way to multiply, which is called the box method. And this is going to help things get a little bit more organized than before. So here's our first example. What I want to show you is doing this first the distributive way, and then we'll show you the box method. So what we talked about before in the distributive method is that whatever we have, we're going to take it and distribute it through to everything within the second set of parentheses. So for example here, I'm going to take the 3x and multiply it through by 8x squared, and I get a 24x to the third. Again, remember our exponent rules. Since we're multiplying here, we're going to add those exponents together. So x and x squared gives us x cubed. Then I'm going to keep going and do 3x times negative 2x, and a positive times a negative gives me a negative 6, and x times x gives you x squared because there's two x's there. Then I do 3x times negative 1, and I get a negative 3x. I'm going to continue on now and now do the same thing but with the 3. So I'm going to distribute the 3 to the 8x squared, the negative 2x, and the negative 1, and do the exact same process. But in this case, this one doesn't have an x, so I'm not going to increase any of the exponents. So I'm going to do 3 times 8x squared, so I'm getting a positive 24x squared. 3 times negative 2 gives me a negative 6x, and 3 times negative 1 is a negative 3. So our last part of this is actually to go through and combine everything together. So we want to look at what looks alike. Now the 24x cubed has nothing that's going to be similar to it, so I'm going to head and write that down. And now we're going to move on to our x squared. So I see I have a negative 6x squared, and I also have a positive 24x squared. So I'm going to combine those two together, but now I'm not doing anything with those exponents for the variables. So what I get here is a positive 18x to the second power. Now I'm going to move on and I'm going to do the negative 3x. That's going to combine with my negative 6x. So negative 3 and negative 6 combine to give us negative 9. And then that negative 3 has nothing to combine with either. So this is going to be our final answer. Sorry about that. This is going to be your final answer here. Since we have 3, 2, 1, and 0 for our exponents, we can't combine them any farther. So now I want to show you a very similar method to this. It's called the box method. And it's just going to help us organize our information a little bit. So what you're going to do is set up a box in the same dimensions as we see as our polynomials. So since we have a binomial, I went by 2. And on the other one's a trinomial, so the other side is by 3. And what you're going to do is on the outsides, you're going to fill in those two polynomials. So as you see, I brought the plus sign with it just so I make sure I remember that it is a positive. On the other side, I'm going to have the 8x squared, the minus 2x, and the minus 1 along the top there. Now you could have done this the other way around if you really wanted to, but I just kind of kept it consistent with whatever's listed first is going along the side. Now from here, we're going to still multiply, but it's just set up differently. So I'm still going to take 3x, and I'm going to multiply it here by that 8x. And when I do that, 8 times 3 is 24, still using the same rules for exponents. X squared and x gives us x to the third power. Now I'm going to keep going. Now do 3x times the negative 2x, and I get a negative 6, and then x squared, and 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x. So as you saw, I went through the exact same process that I did right over here on the left-hand side. I'm getting the same answers. So now I'm going to do it with a plus 3. So 3 times 8, so we're going to follow that same process. So I'm doing 3 times the 8x squared, leaving me with 24x squared. Since the 3 doesn't have a variable, I'm not going to increase the exponents at all. Continuing on, I'm going to do 3 times the negative 2 to get a negative 6. X, and 3 times negative 1 to get a negative 3. Now what's different between this method and the distributive method is all about how it's organized. As you're going to see here on the diagonals is what we're going to be combining in this case. So like I said, we're combining our like terms. That 24x cubed you see has nothing to combine with, so I'm just going to rewrite that. I'm still going to combine the 24x squared and negative 6x squared like I did before, getting 18x squared. And the two x's combined to give us the negative 18x. And as you can see, the negative 3 has nothing to combine with. So in both cases, this answer and this answer are the same. It's just a different method to do it. Our last example here is just increasing by size. Instead of a binomial and a trinomial, we have two trinomials. Like I said before, it's not going to matter which one you decide to put along the side and which one you decide to do at the top. The whole purpose of this is just to keep it more organized. So as before, we're going to go through and multiply. Be careful that you're adding your exponents that when it's appropriate. So in this case, x squared and x squared gives us x to the fourth. I have negative 7x to the third and a negative 4x to the second power. Keeping track of your signs, please. So negative 4x times 6x squared is negative 24x to the third power. The negative 4 and negative 7 give us back a 28x squared. You can put a plus there if you'd like to, but it's not necessary. Following along, we get 16x. And then finally, in the last row, I have the 18x squared, our negative 21x, and a negative 12. Now, since this is a little bit larger, we're going to be combining a couple things a little bit more, especially in that middle row there, in the middle diagonal. But we're still going to combine just like we did before. The 6x to the fourth has nothing to combine with, so I'm bringing it down. The 2x to the third power combines and gives us negative 31x to the third power. So here now I have 18x squared and a 28x squared, but I also have that negative 4x squared. So what you can do is combine 18 and 28 together to get 46 and subtract off 4 more to get a positive 42x to the second power. Then finally here we have this negative 20x and the positive 16x. It's a negative 5x and ending with a negative 12. The only reason I wrote this on a second line is because I ran out of room. So as you can see, this method is going to be very similar. You can multiply and combine your like terms. You can do it through the box method, or you can continue distributing, whichever method you find is the best for you. Please make sure you take your notes and you complete the survey that follows this video. See you tomorrow.